Hi, I'm Evan Cohen, and I'm a freshman.
I'm John Ewan, freshman.
Hey, I'm Drew. I'm a freshman. So today what we're going to be talking about is the rhetorical analysis presentation and how it relates to an essay that we read called Is Google Making Us Stupid by Nicholas Carr. So let's go.
Throughout world history, there have been several technological advances. One of the greatest of these advances is the internet. Everybody uses the internet. I use the internet, Drew uses the internet, John uses the internet, everybody in this room right now uses the internet. But let's start with this. What is the internet? The internet is an international computer network that provides information to its users. Although a very useful tool, it can also be somewhat harmful to us. In his essay, Is Google Making Us Stupid?, Nicholas Carr examines the disadvantages of this immeasurably powerful computing system, such as its subsuming other intellectual technologies, taking over the media, reprogramming our brains, and allowing for the creation of Google to feed us thoughts. Carr expresses his belief that the internet and its substantial use changes our thought process, outdates traditional practices, breaks our concentration, and in essence creates artificial thoughts in our minds. Over time, the internet replaces more and more of our everyday technologies. As Carr reveals in his essay, it's becoming our map and our clock, our printing press and our typewriter, our calculator and our telephone, and our radio and TV. It is now being used for so many different reasons that it seems almost pointless to own a map, a clock, etc. Additionally, as a result of the reliance on the internet, traditional practices are becoming somewhat outdated. Carr explains that people now go online to avoid reading in the traditional sense. However, reading online can lead to many distractions, such as Facebook, news on sports, and much more. Also, the internet has taken over the media. People's minds become so used to the internet media, so traditional media is forced to adapt to the change in the audience's expectations.
Yeah, so the after effects of the internet taking over as communication can really be just plainly seen throughout society. Recently avid readers of long novels all of a sudden feel this sort of disconnect because, as Carr says, their former deep reading sessions have been few and far due to their inability to concentrate for long periods of time. And so the reason that this actually happens is because the internet is virtually able to give any information in the click of a button, so our brains just become used to rapidly receiving this information. And one analogy which Carr uses in his piece to appeal to the reader's logos is, quote, "Once I was a scuba diver in the sea of words, and now I zip along like a guy in a jet ski," end quote. So Carr demonstrates a deep mastery of the use of ethos by his thorough usage of professional material as well. So the University College London recently did an experiment that he highlights in his essay on what people read on two popular research sites. And through the experiment, what they saw was that almost everyone would just never read a few pages in the same article and would just skim over different pieces. However, that's not necessarily to say that people today are reading any less than they did 20 or 30 years ago. And so texting is actually the main reason for that. And that's the main reason why our generation is reading as much as if not more than previous ones. The problem, however, with texting and that type of sort of reading, according to the psychologist Marianne Wolf, is that, quote, "We are not only what we read, but we are how we read," end quote. And so reading text messages is similar to just reading over the internet, because it's a style of reading that promotes efficiency over everything else. And so, for example, when people text the letter K when they really mean to say okay, and the letter R when they meant to say R-A-R-E, they do this just because it's easier and it's more efficient to communicate. So the scientific reason for why these new types of media are affecting our brain, according to Wolf, is that, quote, "Reading is not an instinctive skill for human beings. It's not etched into our genes the way speech is, and so we have to teach our minds how to translate the symbolic characters we see into the language we understand. So in other words, practice makes perfect if you practice the right way."
While the internet is generally making our lives easier, and in turn making us think less, Carr takes aim at the search engine Google. On performing research, Carr writes, "A few Google searches, some quick clicks on hyperlinks, and I got the telltale factor pithy quote I was looking for." He has a valid point. Why would anyone spend time in a library when they have the wonders of the internet at their fingertips? It's a mindset that is, quote, making us stupid. Carr uses direct quotes from Google's founders Sergey Brin and Larry Page, a use of ethos, to support his claims. The ultimate search engine is something as smart as people, or smarter, Page said in his speech. For us, working on search is a way to work on artificial intelligence. Meanwhile, Brin said, "Certainly if you had all the world's technology, the world's information directly attached to your brain, or an artificial brain that was smarter than your brain, you'd be better off." Clearly, Google's design goal is to make finding what we need to be as easy as possible. But where do we draw the line between helping us think and thinking for us? Carr logically points out the issue with the intentions of Google. Artificial intelligence is just that, artificial, unreal. The human brain and a series of algorithms are not comparable, even if they are designed to solve the same task. If a math equation, for instance, were plugged into Google, you'd have the answer right in front of you, clear as day. Yet it fails to show the process behind arriving at this answer. If one wished to find the steps behind solving a math problem, they had to click on hyperlink to hyperlink, go from website to website, until they find the answer they're looking for in a boldface size 36 font. Gone in this scenario is the thought and contemplation the brain uses in problem solving. When looking for an answer online, it doesn't require much intellect to type a question to a search bar. While Carr's stance on technology being a bad thing as a whole isn't one that's too favorable, he brings up a good point with the use of logos. By directly attacking Google, Carr develops an emotional connection with his audience. Google is the know-all of the internet, after all. When you ask someone a question that neither of you know the answer to, the first response is probably going to be, go Google it. Google has become our primary source of acquiring new information, and Carr is attacking something that his audience likely sees as a good thing. He riles them up and grabs their interest simply by titling his essay, "Is Google Making Us Stupid?" It's an effective technique, although it essentially gets some readers to disagree with Carr from the get-go. Yet by offering his personal experiences with Google and the internet as a whole, Carr shows that he's just an average person, a citizen who is watching the world adapt to technology quicker than he can keep up with. Carr's essay isn't an attack on Google itself per se, it's more a statement on the internet as a whole. Yet Carr does bring up a valid point about everyone's favorite search engine. Google is such a convenient and powerful tool that it ends up turning research into an electronically delivered answer to anything. The thinking is done for us. We learn nothing from typing keywords into a search box. Google's inventors are aiming to make their product greater than the human brain is capable. The simplistic website has become the staple of the internet, constantly expanding with more useful and sometimes pointless additions. Carr argues that the Google machine is in fact making us stupider. By presenting his stance on Google through use of various appeals, it's hard to disagree with him.
So yeah, the usage of the internet on a daily basis seems to be pervasive throughout all parts of society, so much so that it seems to have led to a change in the way our brains function and process information. So in his essay, "Is Google Making Us Stupid?" by Nicholas Carr, he explores a serious question of how the internet has completely changed our lives, not necessarily for the better, but for the worse. In his argument to prove the evils of the internet, Carr explains through the use of credible sources such as the UCL, University College of London, the creators of Google, and the New York Times, a slew of PhD and research professionals, how the experts view the situation and what the various studies done on the subject have concluded. In the UCL study, it was observed that almost everyone would just read a couple of pages of the site and just skim over other pieces. The creators of Google stated that their primary research has to deal with artificial intelligence, and so not necessarily, and just making it easier for us to find what we need, and so this type of mentality leaves no room for contemplation. As the computer world seems to think that, quote, ambiguity is not an opening for insight, but a bug to be fixed. The New York Times article that he talks about talks about how like people would read the second and third pages of every edition, and it would give readers a quick taste of what was going on, just as a short thing, so to keep people interested, because that's the only way in today's society that people are interested. And various professionals and researchers discuss the dangers of texting as a style that promotes efficiency over everything else, and so the impressionability of the human brain in regards to the usage of computers, and other ways that the advent of the search engine and the internet has caused many, many problems in American society, many of which we are not even necessarily aware of. And also, by captivating his audience's attention with his title, Carr is able to engage the audience in a discussion about the merits of the internet in actually improving people's lives and making a difference, albeit in a somewhat haughty manner. He actually targets out Google due to the fact that it is the most popular and most used search engine in the world. And so, although to some readers his title, "Is Google Making Us Stupid?" may come off as slightly pretentious, it's successful in basically setting up the framework for him to make his point that the convenience and simplicity of the internet may seem like a great advantage, but really is not. And also, he uses many logical examples and analogies in order to engage the audience even further into thinking about their own personal life and how technology may be affecting them. So, he points out the fallacy behind the thought process of companies such as Google on its impact on society and how it's basically taking a country in a turn for the worst. Because search engines give answers, but they fail in actually showing the process behind those answers and figuring out solutions by yourself. And so we just simply look it up on Google. So, is Google making us stupid? Was the question the article started out with. And by the end, it seems as though despite our personal hubris and belief that the internet is our holy grail, the author is successful in making his point that the disadvantages of the internet greatly outweigh the advantages. And so he makes his point through the use of a variety of sources, he captivates his audience, and he gives readers an initially bitter feeling with his title, but at the same time preparing to unleash a breadth of information and anecdotal evidence which supports his claim. So, it seems as though we have come to rely more and more on computers to aid us in our understanding of the world, and we just toss aside traditional methods of using libraries and gathering information and the idea of introspection and learning through failure, and we see that that has taken a back seat, and because we're able to find this information at a click of a button, it encourages this sort of sedentary lifestyle of just, being a couch potato and spending hours on end scrolling through Facebook and Twitter instead of being productive members of society. And so in a serious piece that seemingly denounces the search engine Google and the internet as a whole, the author poses many, many valid arguments and points on how the internet has changed our thought process and inner workings for the worse, and the overall danger it poses on society.
Okay, go.
So this was our presentation for our Writing 111 Rhetorical Analysis presentation. And now we're going to offer you some tips and suggestions on how to do well on this. So I'll start by saying what we did as a group was we read the entire article together, and then as a group we decided who would do what. We split it up into different sections, we wrote our own things, and then we met and combined everything and made one big presentation.
Definitely keeping in touch with your teammates while working through this presentation is key, because you don't want to end up writing the same thing that they did and then having your essay just repeat itself.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, there's just a lot of different factors into writing this whole essay because, everyone writes like a page or two, and then by the end of it, it's just this huge, sort of presentation that's like 15 minutes long. So yeah, it's important to do all of that. It's important to split it up in a really actually like meaningful way to say this person can take the introduction and talk about ethos, and this person can talk about like logos and pathos, and this person can cover the conclusion. So that way it's all coherent. And to actually read through it yourself and understand what all the different elements of the essay are, and why is ethos important, why is pathos important, why is logos important in the formation of the essay, and that's all about what the rhetorical analysis is sort of like about. So yeah, that's important as well.
Pacing is also key, because when you read your piece, you're going to tend to read faster than what the desired time limit is. So what you want to be able to do is just take a breath before you read and just read it slower than you would normally read a book or anything.